Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your TheStick9erEmpire Podcast, a show for the fans, by the fans. Gentlemen, we won this week. We rolled off another victory by the score of 45-29. Bird season is just about over. We got one big game coming up.
A few years till re-election. They love Elvis Grbac playing in place of Steve Young. Now, Vinny Testaverde's had a big year, and he stunned the Niners early. Third play of the game, Michael Jackson. Down the sideline, touchdown, 65 yards. Come on, baby, light my Zaire. Eric Zaire from the 3. He's wide open, throw to 20-17. But here's Elvis. To Terrell Owens, 15 yards. To Jerry Rice, 5 yards. 3rd and 8. Brent Jones, 13 yards. 5 different receivers hit by Grbac on this drive. Then, bar none, William Floyd, touchdown. 24-20 San Francisco, a 16-play drive that chewed up almost 9 minutes. Zaire tries to answer, but look, he's hit by Chris Goldman. And it's the trifecta, the sack, the forced fumble, and the touchdown.
Yes, I said his arm right there, clearly his arm going back. Nice double dip by Dolman for the touchdown.
Bill Walsh looking from above. George Seifert looking from below. Seifert with his 103rd win as a Niners coach, passing Walsh's old franchise record.
Ortiz, one thing I noticed, let's start today off with you, actually. One thing I noticed this week is we gave up over 200 yards rushing. I know that's on everyone's mind. Now, in hindsight, we were missing Hargrave. We were missing Armstead. Who do you think, being a former offensive linesman and a guy who's very knowledgeable about this matter, who do you think is more detrimental? Who's a more detrimental loss, or who's more detrimental to the team succeeding and not giving up those rushing yards between those two players?
Well, either guy, Hargrave or Armstead, who both missed the game, were very missed. I thought the defensive tackles were pretty poor this week at stopping the run. That's kind of been our calling card. It's something that we've done all season. I don't think we've let a rusher get over 100 yards, and I think 2 guys almost did that on the Cardinals this week. So hard to say who's better. I think Hargrave gets more stats than Armstead does. Armstead's kind of been the guy that takes up 2 blockers and lets Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw get loose and make those tackles in the hole or get in the backfield and disrupt. And we just didn't have that this week. Kevin Givens was okay. Clea Davis, when he was in there, was fine, but I think he got hurt early on. And even Kinlaw was getting kind of manhandled in the run play. He had some good pass rushing this game, but I'd like to see him be a little more stout up front and stop some of those big gains that the Cardinals are getting on us. But the defense was as good as it needed to be. Luckily, we scored a lot of points, and the Cardinals never really were quite in it, despite the big game on the ground that they had.
I agree with you. I think they're both detrimental to the team. Hargrave's more of a sack guy, but Armstead, he's such a tall, massive human being. He has so much height. He does take on a lot of those double teams for that reason. Luke, were there any concerns on your end?
I thought it was a little bit closer than you guys. I mean, I know that obviously we ran away with it eventually, but at halftime it was actually pretty close. You had some of those commentators saying like, "Well, it's going to be close all the way through," which made me laugh because I had already seen the game. But I think Ward's touchdown pick 6 was phenomenal. And yeah, they're having trouble with the run, and now we got to go face the best in the business in the Ravens. So I think that they could pose problems for the Niners. But do you guys have any updates on Armstead? Is he going to be back soon?
As of now, no word on whether Armstead or Hargrave are going to play this week. But you got to think Hargrave. I think if this was a playoff game, he's 100% going to play. I think if it's a playoff game, 100% Armstead is going to play. It's just, do we need them this week against the Ravens? Probably. It would, be nice to have those two guys there to stop Lamar. But, until they practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're not going to know definitively. Right now it's Monday. We're not going to know probably till at least Wednesday whether those guys are going to play or not or have a chance to play.
Yeah. And, I liked hearing Warner talk on the radio this morning. He basically was saying last time when we won the division that he was saying that, just doesn't happen very often. Enjoy it. And then he said, I want to take back those words because I want it to be the standard here. And I like that about Warner. And he had a rough game. I mean, he missed some big tackles. He came up with some big tackles as well. But when you've got an offense that's running on all cylinders like ours is, it's interesting when someone gets almost 250 yards rushing against you and you still just blow them out of the water. The third quarter was the one that told all.
Well, that tells you how great the team is overall. One thing that you said, Ortiz, that rings a bell with me is I agree with you. If this was a playoff game, they would. I think both of them will be playing. Armstead's kind of like day to day, so I have a feeling he's going to play the next game. Honestly, gentlemen, this is a playoff game before the playoffs, in my opinion. And in my opinion, I've been thinking this for a while. This is your Super Bowl preview because the Dolphins can't beat a good team, which has been shown week after week. The Cowboys only beat one good team, and that's because we laid down the game plan the week before, you know? So I think it's really important, you know, to have those two gentlemen play this week. I'm sure you will both agree. And in regards to what you said, Luke, Ward's playing out of his mind this last game, man. I mean, he's leading the league in deflections. He got 2 picks, including a pick 6. That guy right now is like the unspoken gem of the team. He needs to go to the Pro Bowl this year, you know, and he started that, I think it was like his last 7 or 8 games with KC, his final year there. You know, a lot of people thought that maybe we overpaid for him. No. The last 7 games that he did, if I remember correctly, with KC, he was lights out. He was like a top 5 corner. So I think the potential is there for Ward to be a top 7 cornerback. Your thoughts on it, Ortiz?
Ward had a great game. I think like you said, he leads the league in pass deflections. That was a beautiful return. I mean, that was shades of Deion Sanders. I mean, it was an amazing display of speed. I didn't know the guy could run 20 miles an hour like that, like he did. I think they recorded him at over 20 miles per hour on that return. And yeah, it was a good game for him. Lenore was solid on the other side. He might be a little bit banged up going into this next game, but I don't think it's too serious. I think it's like a rib thing. And yeah, the defense, I think on the back end, the DBs have had, this is one of the best stretches of defensive back play I've seen from the 49ers in a very long time. It was always considered our weakness. It wasn't something that most guys said, you know, the 49ers cornerbacks, they're really, you know, top end guys and Pro Bowlers and guys that could potentially make the All-Pro team. Now we have that to go along with the defensive line, which everybody's always talking about is the heart and soul of the defense. Now we have that full defensive front. All 11 guys on our team potentially could be Pro Bowl players. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've voted 10 times for the Pro Bowl, and I look at up and down our lineup. I'm like, every guy could be on the Pro Bowl team. Like, they are that good. Maybe not Jair Brown yet, but you know, that's only because he hasn't started the whole season. But what do you guys think?
Let's hope that they get elected and can't go because they're in the Super Bowl.
Well, I wouldn't be mad if they get elected.
They won't even be allowed, really.
Skip the flag football and frisbee. What is it? Ultimate frisbee. I don't know. I don't even know what they do. They do some kind of like games. Maybe cornhole.
I miss the run to daylight. Remember the run to daylight competition? I think Ricky Waters won the first one. I could be wrong. Yeah. You know, they only did that for like a few years, I think.
You know, McCaffrey, he kept favoring his knee in this game, but I know that all of the Niner fans across the world, their stomachs dropped when Brock Purdy got hit and was out for 3
Oh, yeah.
Thank goodness he's okay, man. Came back and had an incredible second half. So
you responded well.
That's the kind of thing that really scares you is one big hit. Now you've got Darnold, right? And
Darnold did not look good when he came out either, man. That first pass looked like a pick right away.
Kittle should have brought in, I thought.
I felt like it went through Kittle's killed.
But it went through Kittle's hands. I mean, it was on his hands. So you figure
he's trying to kill the guy, dude. There's like 2 defenders there smashing into him.
It came in hot, but I think he settled down. There was I think his next play was an incompletion, but there was a penalty. So he wound up actually being 2 for 3. It wasn't the best looking 2 for 3 have you ever seen, but it just goes to show you it's not the system, it is the quarterback and the guy that's throwing the passes, processing, seeing the defense and hitting guys in stride on their hands. It makes a big difference. And Brock's been that guy. I think he's kind of distanced himself from the other MVP candidates, including his own teammate CMC. As great as the season he's had, I still think his numbers are historically good. Whereas CMC, we've seen this before. We've seen LaDainian Tomlinson have a similar season. We've seen Marshall Faulk have a very similar season in their MVP years. But no one's ever done and combined the statistics that Brock's had.
Maybe and he's beating every good team he plays.
Did Kurt Warner get? No.
He won MVP his first year with the Rams. That's a line. I do have to say something about the other side of the trenches. I do think the D line had one of their poorest games of the year. They did get some sacks, but just way too much being blown off the line of scrimmage by the Cardinals. And credit the Cardinals for doing a good job of blocking. They were doing a good job with their double teams, getting to the second level, getting to the linebackers. So the defensive line, much to improve on next week against the Baltimore Ravens, because they do have a really good offensive line. And I am a little worried about what they can do on the ground with a rushing quarterback and a pretty good running backfield.
Definitely.
Well, they got Gus Edwards, who's a fantastic back, and I think he's very underrated. Every time you put him in the last few years, he does some damage. They did lose Mitchell I believe, for the rest of the
Pete
season.
Mitchell, that
Yeah,
was a
so
bad injury at the end of the game.
think that's a huge injury. They don't have Mark Andrews. That's huge. There's a great time to get into that game. I think I don't even see how they win this game. I know every week we're kind of homers here, but I don't see they're going to come in to this game wanting to just drill the ball down our throats, and Lamar's going to try and run all day. That's one thing I see.
See something different, Mike. I think you're going to see time of possession winning the game, and it's going to be Shanahan's game plan to have all of a sudden just run way more than usual.
Maybe because they're going to try and do the same thing.
We can dominate that time of possession. I think we can beat the Ravens. What do you think, Lucas?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how we're going to approach this game. Do we feel like there's more opportunity against their defensive backs and their linebackers, or do we think like we have an advantage on the line of scrimmage against the run defense? It's tough. I haven't seen a ton of Ravens football games this year. I do watch highlights. I did watch a little bit of the game yesterday. I have to say that Kyle's going to mix it up. He's gonna probably come out passing, and once things start to open up in the pass game, he's gonna start running the ball towards the second half. And that's kind of like when guys tend to get tired, the defensive line starts to put their hands on their hips and bend over and gasp for air, and that's usually when we start to kind of take over and enforce our will on the other team. I would like to see it be a higher scoring game, just because things get weird when it's a low scoring game. Anything could happen. Justin Tucker, their Hall of Fame kicker, can be a big difference maker if it's a low scoring game. They had the advantage in the special teams, and that's one thing I didn't bring up yet, but I was really disappointed in Ronnie Bell as a punt returner. We almost gave up 7 points right before the end of the first half, and that would have been a huge change to possibly how that game ended. So luckily he was down by contact before the ball came out, and it would have been
close too.
Yeah,
17. What was the score going into halftime?
It was close. It was like 21 to 6.
It would have been a 1-point lead, right, going into halftime if that play stood before it was overturned. We need to get better in the punt return game. I wouldn't mind Brandon Ayuk going back there. I don't know how you guys feel about.
I think I'd rather have Debo. Honestly,
well, Debo,
just because he's a tougher player.
I think Debo's more
back there, guys. That's how you get people hurt. It's too much.
It is. I think I'd rather have Debo just because. I think Debo's a guy who could run because he's got that extra gear in him. I think Debo's a guy who might eventually run one back. I don't like to see any of our skill position players back there. Don't get me wrong. And Debo has had an injury issue in the past. So
and Bell's
we've been going to Debo. Debo's been the guy.
He hasn't looked that sharp lately. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Mike. But Bell's had a couple of rough games here. I don't know
about you guys, but I think it's kind of cool that after the game, Trent goes up on the post-game podium with Christian McCaffrey, and they call themselves Robin Big after the TV show on MTV. They had Rob Dyrdek, the little short white guy skateboarder with his best friend bodyguard. Big.
I think that's as good of a segue as any to go down in the trenches with Lucas Ortiz.
Let's do it. Luke, take it away, Lucas.
Well,
down in the trenches with Lucas Ortiz. Down in the trenches.
Well, business as usual this game, guys. I mean, what more can we say about the offensive line that hasn't been already said? Just a continuance of their dominance. Brock Purdy didn't have any sacks, kept him clean. Trent Williams was mauling defenders left and right like he typically does. Another big game on the ground for Christian McCaffrey. He had 115 yards on the ground and another 20 or so with JP Mason. So the run game has been there all season, with the exception of maybe one or two games. And Brock Purdy, he did have to make some off-schedule plays because of the pass rush, but again, he didn't get sacked. So credit to the offensive line. I think they played maybe an AA minus game. There were a couple penalties to nitpick if I had to, but other than that, it was a solid showing for the offensive line. I do have to say something about the other side of the trenches. I do think the D line had one of their poorest games of the year. They did get some sacks, but just way too much being blown off the line of scrimmage by the Cardinals. And credit the Cardinals for doing a good job of blocking. They were doing a good job with their double teams, getting to the second level, getting to the linebackers. So the defensive line, much to improve on next week against the Baltimore Ravens, because they do have a really good offensive line. And I am a little worried about what they can do on the ground with a rushing quarterback and a pretty good running backfield.
Definitely.
Well, they got Gus Edwards, who's a fantastic back, and I think he's very underrated. Every time you put him in the last few years, he does some damage. They did lose Mitchell, I believe, for the rest of the season.
Mitchell, that was a bad injury.
I think that's a huge injury. They don't have Mark Andrews. That's huge. This is a great time to get into that game. I think I don't even see how they win this game. I know every week we're kind of homers here, but I don't see they're going to come in to this game wanting to just drill the ball down our throats, and Lamar's going to try and run all day. That's one thing I see.
See something different, Mike. I think you're going to see time of possession winning the game, and it's going to be Shanahan's game plan to have all of a sudden just run way more than usual.
Maybe because they're going to try and do the same thing.
We can dominate that time of possession. I think we can beat the Ravens. What do you think, Lucas?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how we're going to approach this game. Do we feel like there's more opportunity against their defensive backs and their linebackers, or do we think like we have an advantage on the line of scrimmage against the run defense? It's tough. I haven't seen a ton of Ravens football games this year. I do watch highlights. I did watch a little bit of the game yesterday. I have to say that Kyle's going to mix it up. He's gonna probably come out passing, and once things start to open up in the pass game, he's gonna start running the ball towards the second half. And that's kind of like when guys tend to get tired, the defensive line starts to put their hands on their hips and bend over and gasp for air, and that's usually when we start to kind of take over and enforce our will on the other team. I would like to see it be a higher scoring game, just because things get weird when it's a low scoring game. Anything could happen. Justin Tucker, their Hall of Fame kicker, can be a big difference maker if it's a low scoring game. They have the advantage in the special teams, and that's one thing I didn't bring up yet, but I was really disappointed in Ronnie Bell as a punt returner. We almost gave up 7 points right before the end of the first half, and that would have been a huge change to possibly how that game ended. So luckily he was down by contact before the ball came out, and it would have been
close too.
Yeah,
17. What was the score going into halftime?
It was close. It was like 21 to.
It would have been a 1-point lead, right, going into halftime if that play stood before it was overturned. We need to get better in the punt return game. I wouldn't mind Brandon Ayuk going back there. I don't know how you guys feel about.
I think I'd rather have Debo. Honestly,
well, Debo,
because he's a tougher player.
I think Debo's more
back there, guys. That's how you get people hurt. It's too much.
It is. I think I'd rather have Debo just because. I think Debo's a guy who could run because he's got that extra gear in him. I think Debo's a guy who might eventually run one back. I don't like to see any of our skill position players back there. Don't get me wrong. And Debo has had an injury issue in the past. So
and Bell's
we've been going to Debo. Debo's been the guy.
He hasn't looked that sharp lately. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Mike. But Bell's had a couple of rough games here. He had that, Wisnowski would have had that 30-yard run, and he had that penalty that he fell into somebody's back or whatever he did. He hasn't really looked that.
He's ready for that. I don't.
Hopefully he can pull it together, man. Because
it's a stressful job. When does Ray? Did we lose Ray for the year? Is he coming back? He's gonna come back for the playoffs.
He's eligible to come back, I think, after this next game.
But
I think they put him on the IR, which is a four week absence.
Is he he's an upgrade over Beal, but I don't necessarily think he's an upgrade over Debo, even though Debo just hasn't really shown us what he can do. But man, there was a run back last week where you saw Debo had like 30 yards on the run back. I was like, Debo, I think eventually will break one. And I know we haven't had anyone since like Dexter Carter, I believe, which is back in like the early 1990s. But I think I'd rather see Debo back there. I just don't want to see him every single play, but Beal's not really cutting it at the moment. Maybe he'll get better. Ray to me seems like another guy who's he's a decent return guy, but he's a little like I could see him fumbling as well. And it's a position we haven't really figured out yet.
Put Ward back there, man.
Just a quick clarification. You mean Bell, not Beal, right?
Yeah, I know.
Because we do have a Beal on the
defensive
team.
end. Yeah, to me it looks like the same name.
Not returning.
You know what? When they become Pro Bowlers, they get their due diligence and respect.
Could just be your New York accent, but yeah. To clarify, it is Bell.
It's Bell. The other guy's Beal, the defensive end. Yeah. To me, until they start, giving us a little bit more.
You sound like
I just don't want to confuse the listeners.
Beal's another player I'm a little worried about, man. I know you said it doesn't seem too serious, but it is a rib injury and it does hurt. Is Demo, not Debo. Diamalor Lenore, man. He's been getting better and better every week too, gentlemen. I think you will both agree with me.
Yes.
He's turning into one of the better number 2s in the league, really.
He's confident and he knows he can go up against anybody in the league. Like he can be a number 1 in his mind, which is more than you can ask for from a guy that's the number 2 opposite Charvarius Ward. I think if he were on another team, like he might be the shutdown cornerback that they they have followed the best receiver on the team. I think he's been that good.
We clinched the division. Now, if there were a skid here and we lost to the Ravens, I mean, the Eagles have not looked too good. And who are they playing this week? Because they could end up losing.
They're playing the Seahawks. We were rooting for the Seahawks tonight.
Okay. So we could end up getting some help from Seattle.
So that game's going to be interesting because I don't know. Did you guys hear about Jalen Hurts? Supposedly he's sick.
Hurt, right? Okay.
Traveling to the game on a separate flight away from his team.
Now that's his excuse. Apparently, he's been feeling bad for 2 weeks. You know, I don't know what type of disease he has, but seriously, like, really, you've been feeling sick for 2 weeks. It comes out after you get beat up by the Niners. I've been sick for like 2 weeks. You know, the announcers were flirting with that idea. Like, who knows how long he's been sick? Maybe even from the Niners game. I'm like, yeah, no, calm down, guys.
He's been sick all season, guys. That's why the Eagles don't have as good of a record. So and then the other, so he's questionable, and then the other questionable, or I think he's actually out, is Darius Slay, their best cornerback. So DK Metcalf's going to go off. Like, this is, if you're a fantasy league owner of DK Metcalf, get excited because he's probably going to get you a lot of points tonight.
All right, guys, let's get some predictions for this game coming up here against the Ravens.
Ooh, who would like to go first? On the horn? I'll go first.
Mike,
if you like.
Yeah, Mike, take it, Mike.
Take it, Mike.
I'll tell you where I'm feeling this, man. You know, I keep telling you we got to hit 50 points at some point this season.
It's not going to be the game.
you would think it's not, but you never know. I'm going to say it's going to be the Rams game because the Rams put up a lot of points. So I think that could be a shootout. So I'm going to say we put up 50 on the Rams going into the playoffs. But then again, if the Eagles lose tonight, we're benching all of our starters at the half that game. So I can't say that. You know, we might not hit that golden 50 that I keep waiting for. But
this was your 50 game, Arizona, man. They're so close. Let's just call it 50. Round up.
I mean, we brought in all the backups with 7 minutes and 46 seconds, something like that left. You know what I mean? This would have been the 50 game, honestly, if the score was closer. Seven, 27-33. Lamar is very dynamic. He's a scary player to play against. He's not a great passer. Over the last few weeks, they've been concentrating on him passing more from the little bit that I've watched him. I like to see us do, and I think this has actually happened, kind of what we've been doing the last few games where we just kind of like maybe just surround the QB, just try and get around the QB and contain him in that manner. You know, if we do that, I'm going to say 49ers 27-32 versus 14-17 points, only because Lamar could really run. Niner victory.
Now
I'll go next.
Well, real quick, Lucas, there's one player we didn't mention yet, and that's Nick Bosa, who had a phenomenal game for the most part. You know, they're all having trouble stopping the run, especially when some of the pieces of the puzzle aren't there, but he still had a really good game and got rolled up on at some point. So hopefully he's okay. Anyways, go ahead, Lucas.
Yeah. Nice sack fumble. I think he'll be okay. He got up. I think he got up and was in the next play. But yeah, this game is it's interesting. I do think that this is the best defense we're going to play all year, despite Cleveland being really good. I think the reason we lost to Cleveland was more on our side than their side. They have two really good linebackers in the middle. They're fast. They tackle well, but I don't think they cover as well as Warner and Greenlaw do. So I think we can take advantage of the middle with, you know, plays are some of our go-to plays down the seam, getting George Kittle in the middle. I think George Kittle's going to have a big game against the Ravens, and I think we're going to score a lot. I don't see us punting too often. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, just like Mike said. We're going to score 40 or say 42 points and limit the Ravens to 25. I do think the Ravens will make it close for most of the game, and we'll just kind of pull away in the fourth quarter, and you know, onto Washington, hopefully with a 12-3 record.
Luke, your thoughts?
I think it's going to be close, and I think the Niners are going to win, but I think they're going to have a hard time stopping the run in the first half, and they'll make some adjustments in the second half. And the Ravens they're a good team, man. This is good. This is a true test. Hopefully we'll have some of these guys back that are injured. But I'm going to go with Niners 28, Ravens 27.
There you go.
28-27?
Yep.
Did I hear that right? Man, that's a close one. I don't like
Is that a Jake Moody winner or no? Or is it
It could be.
Brock Purdy winner.
I actually think Bosa is going to get a safety. We'll see.
Well, those are always tough by. And with that, folks, thank you for tuning in. Audience out there, if you like the show, you like our content, one thing we've been noticing is, we had 5,000 people viewing our shows over the last week or so, but not as many subscribers as we honestly need. So people, help out the show. You like the show, like and subscribe. That way you can get the content to you. That way, when you get a notification that our show's out and you can enjoy it for yourself.
And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have Doug Hendrickson, NFL agent. I grew up with him, and he's going to be on the show again. He was on last year, and we're going to work that out and get a solid date, and I'll put some information out. But yeah, it should be fun. So,
and some of his background
postseason again.
And tell him, Luke, some of his background. He does manage some 49er players as well.
Yeah, he's friends with Marshawn Lynch, who may also make an appearance possibly. And he's been doing this for so many years. He's the real life Jerry Maguire, and he has definitely has some Niners, and Armstead's one of them. And we'll see what happens here. Hopefully we'll get him on in the next couple weeks.
And with that said, that concludes our show. And again, as I mentioned earlier, people, like and subscribe. Get your content in. You enjoy the show. You have a good time. Have a great night, everyone. Go Niners.
Back-to-back NFC West champions.
Oh, yeah, baby. Let's keep it rolling. Bird season is almost over.
Go Niners.
What a bird season it's been. It's like